Hey folks, welcome to Intercom. Thanks for joining us tonight. I've been very excited about this for quite some time. We have Des, one of our co-founders here, and also Ethan, formerly Bessemer, currently chemistry. Excited to have them share a little bit, but before we pass the mics over to them, metaphorically, I wanted to share a bit about myself and Intercom. So I am on the startup partnerships team here. My entire remit is to get founders to love the product, use the product, and grow alongside with us. Fin is our AI customer service agent. It's the market leader and the best AI customer service agent, as we know. And my goal is to have you all use it, continue building, and grow and scale with us. Fin plus Intercom are both free for founders. If you have any questions about that, come find me. That's the end of my plug, and just really, really happy to pass the mic over to you all for the rest of this evening. Thanks, y'all. Take it away.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I have a question before we get started. Hands up if you're Series A or seed, just directionally, just so I get a sense of, because it's very easy for me to answer questions like a big company, or it's very easy for me to answer questions like you should do when you're a small company. I always like to get a sense. Okay, cool. Shall we start? Let me tell you about who Ethan is. So a fun story about Intercom is we came over to San Francisco from Ireland in 2011 in July to try and raise $1 million. And I think it took us like 10 weeks and we were at 276,000 or something like that. It was like really not going well. And then some like last minute sort of beneficial flukes happened. And then lastly, a firm came out of nowhere from Japan and put in $500,000, and we got our first million. And then we did a Series A, and somewhere along the way we knew we were getting hot. And then when our Series B, I think, was closed in like 23 hours or something like that, that was when I was like, oh, we're definitely onto something now. And it was Ethan who basically did our Series B with Bessemer.
Over Christmas.
Over Christmas, yeah, that's right, actually. So make it, and actually, funnily enough, I've talked to so many investors who we were scheduled to meet in January, and they were like, I can't believe that like on the 27th of December or something stupid like that, the deal got done. And at the time, I think like I knew you for, I think your biggest involvements was possibly Twitch, Twilio, Twintercom,
I had a TWI thing. Tried to rename Intercom, but Des didn't let us.
But yeah, and like I guess like, you know, to some degree, it's almost nice with startup content these days that none of what worked back then works today, because it's an entirely different world. So there's no point in replaying what, you know, any of the sort of old logic. But what, like, you know, is it fair to, I mean, are Twitch and Twilio two of your most sort of PagerDuty, I guess, if you know right? Which is your favorite of all your children, I guess, is what I'm asking. Aside from Intercom,
Besides Intercom?
yeah.
I should not give the love letter to Intercom. I mean, Twitch was a fun investment for me. You know, I've been investing in early stage tech for now 17 years, 16 of those years at Bessemer Venture Partners before starting chemistry. And Twitch was unique. Intercom's been a unique journey. And when I get to ask the questions, I want to ask Des about that. But Twitch was a unique investment for me because it was not something I was looking for. You know, I was kind of trained in this classical way of like, you think about a roadmap, you think about the future, you think about the cloud, you think about that. And Twitch was just sort of came out of left field. And I had to invent a whole roadmap to be able to invest in it as this, you know, online, you know, video going online. And what are the channels and mechanisms for that besides YouTube? So that was a fun one to be a part of. But I also remember the 23 hours. It was a little more. It was probably felt like 23 hours. It was like a week or two where I met Owen, the Des's co-founder, and then Owen said, you know, I want to bring the rest of the team over so you can meet him. And that was Des and Paul Adams, the chief product officer. I don't think I met Kieran. I think it was you, Paul, and Owen. And we had to go to an Irish pub. So I had to get kind of indoctrinated. I don't know. I'm from Boston, so I've been to an Irish pub, but not with like true Irishmen. So that was like quite an experience where I could see the care that these guys had for every little product detail. Like I still remember it, and anytime I see little Intercom things, I remember that meeting.
Yeah. Like some things definitely have lived on for sure. I think like thankfully being good at, well, caring about product UI is something that's still useful even in a post AI period. Okay, let me get on to some actual questions I'm supposed to ask you. let's start with this one. So I think you say 13, 14 years in Bessemer?
No, 16.
16.
Yeah.
Why did you start your own fund?
Yeah, I never thought I would. I was happily investing as one of the partners at Bessemer for a long time. Actually, Intercom was probably I became a partner in 2011, probably like third or fourth investment, maybe second. It was near the beginning of my like solo investing journey as a partner. And I loved what I did. I still love what I do, and I love the firm Bessemer, which had, as I said, a very predict product and market. Like what's the set of products and markets that are underserved by technology and need something to exist. But the dynamics and the trends of the last 5 or 6 years, where you had a lot of capital going to a very limited number of firms, it was like 10 or so firms that collectively raised 80% plus of the venture dollars. I saw a lot more groupthink, and I saw a lot more conflict between what's probably best for the early stage founder and what's best for the institution of the venture capital firm. And it occurred to me and my co-founders of chemistry, one of whom I met on the Intercom board, by the way, Mark Goldberg, that this was probably a moment where you could have a little bit of a reinvention and stand out as an early stage focused venture firm. Now that just sounds like obvious, like an early stage venture firm, but there actually aren't any left. There's seed firms, there's big multi-stage firms. There are not that many early stage venture firms. You could name maybe 2 or 3. And so we felt like, okay, we have the experience to do this. We do early stage investing. We could stand out, and we wouldn't have it would be a more fun job because it'd be more pure. It's just finding the Deses and Owens of today's era and then supporting them. And you could have a tighter atomic unit of 3 people. It's just a lot more manageable than a firm of 30 plus partners and 200 people. And there's more machinery to keep running there. Whereas I think early stage venture is not really benefited by a lot of that machinery. It's just benefited by the one-to-one relationship and the networks that you bring. And so it just seemed like kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something new and build something probably the way you guys felt at the beginning of Intercom.
And what types of startups are you looking at?
All different types.
Yeah. Okay. As in, is it totally open?
Yeah,
AI, non-AI.
We took the set of things that we did at our previous firms. We come from Andreessen Horowitz, Index, and in my case, Bessemer. And so we do developer platforms, we do application software, we do, everything's touched by AI. We do fintech, we do consumer, we do a little bit of crypto even. So it's pretty broad. There's some areas we won't go into, like frontier tech space.
Yeah. How many companies have you invested in so far?
We just did our 9th, we're about to do our 10th investment. So
That's pretty quick. You're like what, year and a half old?
We're a year old. So our model is like 2 to 3 investments per partner per year. So it's about 10 to 12 a year. And so
primarily Series A, is it? Or
primarily seed and Series A.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you can ask me a question. Yeah.
All right, let's go back. Let's go back in time.
Okay.
Well, so the one really interesting story that I experienced a little of this, but then I didn't, and I want to hear this answer too, is Intercom kind of got reborn in the last 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's one of the few companies that was kind of cruising along in the pre-AI era and actually like has a very relevant AI native story. So how'd you and the team know to do that? And then how'd you make it work? Because a lot of companies would like to kind of stamp AI onto their thing, but it's not as genuine as what you guys have built here with Fin.
Yeah. So the brief history of Intercom is, when we launched it initially, we were like a general purpose customer messaging tool. And then as we listened to our customers, we realized they were using us for sales, marketing, and support. So we built out sales, marketing, and support software. And then we decided to bring sales, marketing, and support software all up market. And that kind of worked and kind of didn't. But like the worst part was, in 2020, it was impossible to tell something wasn't working because all businesses were just high and to the right in the sort of ZERP era. So everything just looked like it was working regardless of whether or not it was. And then in 2022, everything screeched to a halt, and we had like 5 consecutive quarters of declining new revenue growth. And it was just, things were looking pretty like scary. Owen returned. Owen was our founding CEO, and he came back. And I think we had a plan. This is like the piece that doesn't get talked about. Our original plan was like, here's what we're going to do. Refine the focus. We'll just go after customer service. The big player in the space was Zendesk. They just got bought by private equity. So we could just go straight in and compete directly with Zendesk. And we're going to compete because our product's just basically better than Zendesk. We didn't really have much more than that. It was just like, we'll just be better than my product, right? And like that felt like it was doable. And that plan lasted about 7 weeks. And then I got a message from Fergal, who's our chief AI officer. He wasn't our chief AI officer back then. He was just probably director of AI or something. But Fergal messaged me to say, like, basically, it was a very short message. It just said chat.openai.com. You should look at this. And that was November 29th, 2022. And so I had to play with this, and then he sent me some screenshots of conversations he'd been having. And the first question I asked it, I think, was like, how do you install Intercom on an iPhone app? And it answered it like perfectly in like 7 seconds or whatever. And I was like, shit, that's a pretty good answer. It's a better answer than any of our customer support team could have given in 7 seconds. And I was like, huh. And so I think I rang on the following day or maybe that night. And we spoke all the way through the weekend, and we were what I was saying to him, I was relaying the message from Fergal, which was basically the AI group thinks that they're onto something here, like that there's a relevant piece of tech that can be built here. And I think it was very obvious to anyone who kind of played with ChatGPT early on that like its application to customer service was really obvious. And the way I like, so Owen agreed on the Sunday, or Owen decided on the Sunday that like we need to just go after this AI opportunity. It's a better idea than just having a nicer UI than Zendesk, which was, bear in mind, the alternative plan. So we kind of went hard after that. And I think initially all that looked like was just a few people building some AI features inside the Intercom platform. And then we started to hear rumors of GPT-4 coming. Because I don't know if you remember back then, but everyone just talked about hallucinations all the time. That was the big concern, was just, what if it hallucinates? And I was like, yeah, because humans are perfect, But that was a real thing. But like GPT-4 was, I don't know if you remember this as well, but GPT-4 was the one that doesn't hallucinate, We're like, oh, sweet. Turns out that was,
Never hallucinate.
yeah. But what we did see was over time, where like in January, I remember looking in like sort of product review with the AI group, and they were showing us how they were guardrailing it against hallucination, and it was working. And so we launched Fin in March 2023. And we like, people often talk about first mover advantage. I think there's a real first mover disadvantage too. I think we paid the cost of teaching the entire industry how all this shit works. We paid the cost of all the like derpy models that shouldn't have been built upon, and all the like, people aren't ready for it yet. So we're going to make all these smaller, easier decisions. We had to go through all of that. Like, there's a phrase that people often say, like, yeah, you'll recognize the pioneers, they have the arrows in their back, right? Like there's a version of that in AI where if you move too soon, all the tech isn't there for you and people aren't ready for you, but you're still there with the product, and you pay a heavier cost. However, one of the things we realized along the way was like that the only future of Intercom was going to be AI, full stop. There was it wasn't mad, big brained galaxy thoughts that like got us there. It was just very clearly, like, I described it like this before. If you're like standing at the edge of a cliff and like there's a tiger running towards you, and you jump off the cliff into the water, you could say that that's bravery, or you could say that that's survival instinct. Both can be true, right? And I think for us, like, if our default position was like die, and we chose to survive by playing in the AI space, that's like, it wasn't like it wasn't some like, ooh, we picked this one out of the bunch. It was like, either we are going to be the company that kills Intercom, or Intercom will die by somebody else's hand.
But I think what was unique about that moment for Intercom is that you recognized it. There's a lot of companies that are still out there today that perceived to be successful winners that have not until more recently realized that they're on the path that maybe Intercom was.
You know why I think that is, though? I actually think we had, like, I would say you probably agree with this. Most of the time in Intercom, we've had no luck, right? Things have always kind of worked against us in loads of ways. We were given one weird bit of luck, which was that the business wasn't doing very well.
That's
And,
true.
and like, I think the people who struggle most to adapt to AI are the ones where their business is actually doing fine. So like, people change through inspiration or desperation. And we definitely had a healthy cocktail of both, right? Like, but like, I think the ones who if you were asleep at the cash register with a little bit of a monopoly and it didn't really matter if you showed up for work or not, November 29th, 2022 was just another day for you. For us, it was like we got to see death in the face. And we're like, well, are we going to die or are we going to fight? And we chose to fight. So I think like there was a gift of being like backed into a corner and having to fight, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you've come out the other side of that, um, you had to remake the company a little bit. It's one of the companies that pioneering like real practical utility of AI, like it's in customers' hands every day, every minute. Was there like a second order of that? Like you had Furkle, you had the AI team, but then like how radical a transition was this from the perspective of like the nuts and bolts, the people doing the building?
We're still going through it. I genuinely am. So the way Intercom used to build product was the product managers, and like we unfortunately we invited this on ourselves. The product managers were like the kings in our product team, right? They got to make all the big decisions. They, and like I'm definitely at fault for a lot of this. I wrote books and all this sort of shit and made it out like, oh, product people are brilliant, blah blah blah. Um, in a post AI world, the product people aren't that important. Now, that's not to say that they're not important, but they've lost a large amount of their importance. And why is that? Well, it's because if you're doing AI properly, it really matters if it works. That sounds like it's a controversial, shocking statement, right? But you all notice how often do you go to Product Hunt or Hacker News, or how often you get a pitch where you're like, like Digsby.ai, let me have a look. Okay, click, click, click. This thing doesn't do what it says it did, right? Like that's almost the default experience of AI, is that it's not quite working, right? And obviously we are mission critical software in the eyes of our customers. Like if you put Fin in front of your customers, it has to work, right? So we care a lot about this, which means the way we build software, our first stage is not identify the job to be done and work on wireframes and go off into the forest and come up with some beautiful design, get the crew in on Figma. All that shit happens way later on now. Our first stage is, can we reliably do this with AI? And that is the way we answer those questions. So can we reliably identify conflicting content sources in a knowledge center article with AI? That's like, that's an example of a problem we have had to solve recently. And to solve that, you end up, it's all empirical evaluation. You come up with a rigorous, torturous test suite of loads of things that like test the boundary edges, things that seem like they contradict, but they actually don't. Things that definitely contradict, but it's not that obvious why. And you have like this whole like 100 scenarios, and then you basically test, can AI reliably perform at least like say 99 times out of 100, right? Because like, again, mission critical, we have customers who have like millions or tens of millions of customer support scenarios. If we're 1% wrong, that's a lot of work for humans to pick up, right? So we really need high performance. So everything we do to build great AI is it starts with the AI group saying, yes, we can do this. Once we know we can do it, everything is downstream of that. Then it's like, all right, guys, off you go to the forest, bring your Figma files, come back with you, blah, blah. That's all way later. But like, we've had to like, our software process is almost back to front now. Like, and that has been not popular. It's been disempowering. We had all these beautiful product principles and designs and books, and we had to rip it all up and throw it away. People felt like, upset. We were losing our soul. And like, yes, yes, yes. All of that is also true, but we're building a great product, and that's the thing that matters. And that's like, you have to be willing. Like, there's a phrase, this is a gross phrase and I don't endorse it, but I do say it all the time. If you're going to eat shit, you don't nibble. And like, so for us, it was just kind of like, we need to get through a lot of these hard changes, and I'm not going to like drip feed them. We just have to accept we're going to redesign our entire process. And if you're not on board with that, this probably isn't going to be the comfort of you anymore, because we can't not change. We will die.
So two reactions to that. One, I've never heard that expression before. Show of hands, who has? No, it's okay. That's a new one for me. And then secondly, there is something about this AI moment we're in that it gives people complete permission to pitch something that doesn't fucking work at all. Like, to your point earlier, like specifically it's around these agentic actions. I think a lot of the chatbot stuff works really well, will reply to you well. The kind of first frontier of AI around large language models and what that can do conversationally as interfaces, as as the product itself, in like the case of Intercom. But there's a lot of stuff where the AI is taking tasks and it's broken. So that's my request to the group is something where the AI actually agentically works, does something on your behalf and actually works. And take a narrow thing, take something small. It doesn't have to be, we're going to buy stuff for you. That's maybe coming, but we're not, like something just very narrow where it's reliable. So on that note, what is your favorite AI tool in your kind of workflow? And then what do you wish existed that is coming but is not around?
Yeah,
And I can answer that too.
yeah, I'll come back to you on that so you can start thinking. But the this is a boring answer, but I always give it. I have to be honest. My favorite AI tool is a meeting note summarizer called Granola.
That was the answer I was going to give.
Oh shit! Okay, there we go.
Else.
Okay,
Go ahead.
great minds. I'm an investor Granola too. But like,
Me too.
oh, there we go. Okay, great. Why do I like granola? There's 2 or 3 reasons, but like, no, reason number 1 is like it just fucking works. Like that's I'm like I sorry again. It sounds ridiculous, but like we recently in Intercom, hot take, had to ban granola. Our security team were not popular because of this, but basically until granola security posture matches whatever the hell we need to do to keep all of our compliance certs active, we can't use granola, and everyone got force migrated over to like Google Gemini meeting summarizer. And I can't describe to you, like I've like actual uproar, right? And there are Intercom people here like who are gonna tell you like it's like my Slack that day, I got like 150 different like, Des, you know the guys are granola, just tell them to sort their shit out, you know. So one reason is granola just really works. The second reason is I feel a kinship with granola because Finn is our AI agent for customer service. There are lots of people on the market doing AI agent for customer service, and we're all saying some version of R1's great. R1 resolves loads of things, right? And people have been progressively working out over the course of 2 years. The Fin one actually does work, but that's taking a long time to seep through. And the granola guys have the exact same challenge, which is like there are dozens of meeting note summarizers out there, but only one of them really, really nails it. And then the third thing, which is related, is like it's deep AI. Granola, like people think about it as it's being like some sort of thin wrapper, or it's like, oh well, Jesus, ChatGPT can summarize an audio file. But if I have a meeting with Ethan, and let's just say I hired like the world's best, like God's own meeting note summarizer, right? What sort of things would they do? They'd probably, before they came in to summarize the meeting, they'd probably learn a bit about who I am, about who Ethan is, what's Ethan been up to, what's he been saying on Twitter, what's he been posting on LinkedIn, what's his background, what words mean something unique in an Ethan context. For example, chemistry is a word that doesn't mean what it normally means in the context of Ethan, right? And it's a different thing, right? And similarly, fin does not mean like a shark's tail for me. It actually means so you do all of this behind the scenes research to look up like what things where I would like to discuss. Then you listen to things we're saying, and then you constantly be re-summarizing and re-updating and re-summarizing and re-updating, as opposed to what a normal thin wrapper will do is just a single shot audio transcript plus basic summarizer model, right? So that's a long way of saying they've gone really deep on the problem to become really good at it. And that's the same thing that we've done. Like people think Fin is like a single, it's a single shot rag bot. It's like give them a doc and have them write an answer. Fin is like 27 different subsystems. There is like the phatic engine reply, there's the summarizer, there's the abstraction, there's the retrieval, there's the disambiguator, there's the clarifier. These are all different handcrafted things. We've had to go really deep to nail this job. So anyway, that's why granola is my favorite. It's because it's just they've taken a problem and they've taken it really seriously.
I mean, I'll pile on because that was going to be my answer. I'll give a different answer, but I'll just pile on to granola. It's such there's so many magic moments with that application that are just delightful. Like I remember when I first discovered, and they kind of hide it, but when I first discovered the ability to ask questions in the meeting that you're in about what somebody you can ask it anything. And the way it answers those is different than the way it answers a question later when you're asking it to kind of summarize what happened. Because it knows, as Des says, it knows like, oh, in this moment, I really just want information kind of pulled out versus a more all-encompassed, enhanced summary of something that I could share with other folks. It's a lot of little touches like that I think those at Granola have just really gotten right, whereas others, Notion has a note-taking product, Google, there's 50 of them, but theirs is just better. So for the sake of our mutual investment, I hope
Yeah.
Intercom allows
But I was gonna
granola
say,
back in.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But if I was trying to transpose that into advice that you guys could apply in your own startups, like I think there's such an edge in just taking your problem domain really seriously when you're applying AI, right? Just don't be naive. Ask yourself what's the hardest thing that you would do, you'd push yourself to do if you really had to be the actual best. Because there's so much room for being the best at these things, and there's so much commoditization for being the easy version of these things. You see this with like say text to app type builders. You see this with like summarizers. Or you see basically anything. Even some of the coding agents have this problem as well. The ones that go deep, and for us, like, deep in Intercom is now starting. I mean, we're now at the point where we're like post training our own models to be really, really great at certain things. We actually have a whole event here in San Francisco tomorrow where we'll cover a lot of this. But like, I just think like you should assume most of your hypothetical competitors are not going deep enough, and they're not going all the way, and they're not taking the job seriously enough. And if you do, that's going to be your edge, because you're going to show up on a call with somebody like Ethan, and he's going to say, "Show me your product," and he's going to ask it to do the thing you said it would do. He'll ask it in a slightly more difficult way. He'll ask it in a weird way that you didn't expect. And if it performs, immediately in his head is like a checkbox that goes, right, these guys are taking the product seriously. I could strike out the execution risk. They're actually doing good work here. So right, that's the lesson I think I'd take out of it.
So maybe riffing on that, my request for startup, and I'll circle that. I'll punt that one back to you, but I'll give you some time to think of one. My request for startup is someone to reinvent the CRM in a granola-like way. Like that's an application or an intercom-like way, I should say, because it's a more complex set of primitives. But for those that have used a CRM, have used like basic customer relationship management kind of software, it is not pleasant, and that's fine. There's a lot of software that's not pleasant, but you sort of learn to use it because it does the things that you need. I would argue in the CRM case, there's a lot of things it could and should do that it doesn't do because of the fundamental workflow and the way it's been designed. Like you can never query a CRM in the way that you want to. Like, tell me all the customers that look like, but there's no interface for that. There's no input mechanism where I can ask the kinds of questions I want to ask and get anything approaching a quick, or even with all the time in the world, getting the response in that kind of bite size back to me. And I think this will happen in some time frame, but it's weird to me that it hasn't happened yet.
So is it like an AI native CRM? Like with the classic canonical features of CRM is like key value pairs and like show me all users in San Francisco who are paid more than that. And you're sort of saying, hey, what I want is a natural language interface. I don't want to be restricted by any of that bullshit.
About what was it, 8 years ago or so? I think it was Relate IQ kind of first pioneered that we suck everything in out of your email, and communication flows automatically. So now most CRMs have that, and Salesforce is a little slow to implement that, but by and large, every communication from your email is ingested into the CRM right now. So that's a good amount of context that some smart CRM person could do something with and create a product where I can then ask it a question or somehow query that collective context that it now has. That's my hope for what should be built.
I think my one is it's probably slightly more boring, but like I basically use Slack all the time. I kind of hate it, I guess. Like, I mean, I use it all the time, so I'm not like, I can't say I hate it that much, but like, my God, that never as a product like needed to be rebuilt and reconsidered and reimagined in a post AI world greater than Slack. And I don't think it's going to happen within the building. So I think somebody should basically say, we are going to attack work-based communication with AI and do it way, way better. And I think that would be easily like a $30 billion outcome if you could land it. So yeah, that's what I'd go for.
And there's a company kind of built before AI, and then the AI world happens, and they let you kind of integrate a bot. But to the first question I asked Des, it wasn't like it's not a native AI product. It's just you
No.
gotta connect a bot,
And like,
the way you like connect a accounting system.
totally. And then you can always tell that people aren't taking AI seriously, because if all their AI features are just a sparkly button with like summarize on it, you're like, yeah, Grant, that's exactly what I'd build if I had to like check a box to not get fired too, but like, it's a different approach to like actually build a properly deeply AI considered, like I wanted to actually ask Slack questions like, when was the conversation that we had about building the help center to blah, blah, blah? There's no way to do it. I'm like literally stuck in the olden days of keyword matching in a search. Like, and PS, AI has been around for 3 years now. So like it'll be 3 years in November. Like it's, it doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon either. So I really think there is an opportunity on the radar.
Great.